This is going to be a real estate website tutorial, just focusing mainly on the banners. Make sure you have that size that just popped up on the screen. Also on the far right, under properties, you'll see the width and the height. Don't worry about the X and the Y as of now. And I just set it as a white background. Just making those artboards, making sure it's all together and equal. I am then going to go to my folder that I have the red and white stock photos and just drag it inside. This is how I get most of my photos inside Photoshop. That's the easiest way. Just make sure when you drag it, the quality is right. Because you do not want the quality to be blurry, blotchy, like I said, anything in between that. And I am playing around with the zoom. The magnify effect is at the bottom left. You see I'm typing in 70, 80, 110 just to see where I want to be, because sometimes if I want it to be detailed, I'll zoom all the way in, and then if I don't want to be detailed, I'll just zoom out. So I'm playing around here. We're going to go to the toolbar to the left hand side. The brush effect is going to have this message that pops up. Just click OK. You have to click OK. It's just saying it's going to alter everything, and you're going to basically mess up that layer. So we are then going to play around with the brushes and change the hardness. You want the hardness to be at 0. You don't want it to be so hard. So right there, I'm just playing around with it, increasing the size. You see that's too big. I did 4,000. That was too big. So I had to, come back and play around with it. I think I did about maybe 400 at the end. So yes, I'm at 492 currently for the size now, and just erasing, having that fade effect, not you seeing the line where it's faded at, because you don't want that line of demarcation. And I'm just going to the T, which is the text, and sliding that over, and then going to change the font. I'm going to change the size, the line spacing, and everything of that nature. I decided to choose Lola Daniels. I don't know why Lola Daniels pop up in my head, but we are going to stick with Lola. It's a cute name. I love it. So this is going to be Lola Daniels. She's a realtor, and she also has a mentorship type program for people who are interested in doing that as well. So we're just going to use her as like a passion project type, basically, random example. Mind you, disclaimer, this person does not exist, but yes. So I'm going to be using the font Made Cianera. I'm not sure how to pronounce it too. It's the second one that you see up there under the Nick one. And I'm going to be using that for the main big font, which will be fine. You can find that in the font folder. It is going to be in the font folder. All the fonts that I've used are in the font folder, which is in your Google Drive. And the Google Drive is also in Mighty Networks, which is Buncreatives Hub. Again, the fonts are in the font folder in Google Drive. I'm playing around on the right hand side of the line spacing. You see the two AA ones and the VA. The AA one is when it's two lines and it'll space how it is in between. And the VA one is the actual line distance. So you can definitely change that out however you feel and what's convenient. I'm now changing this font back to small because if the font is really, really, really big, it disappears. You will not be able to see it, so you have to play around with that font. That's why I put it at 72 for now, and then eventually I can work my way up and do another font. So I'm choosing a secondary font. I try to do 2 to 3 fonts, but they all have to make sense. They can't clash. They just have to flow together, and it is a way to do it. And once you download everything onto your computer, it'll show up similar to this. So it's always best to go in your font folder and see what the font pairing will look like. And like I said, what will look right and all go together. I decided to just do Daniels with the same font that I did for Lola. And that worked out really good. It's a nice, classy, minimal, simple look. It's not too cluttered. It's not too busy. It's just very classy, straight to the point. Lola Daniels, bold, capitalized letters. For Daniel's part, this is just going to be a faded out opacity, however you would pronounce it. I am going to just be fading in that background and adding that timeless look, that simple, with a little spice type look, if you would call it. I'm just playing around with that. Most of the time, when I do get stuck with ideas, I just move on to the next artboard. So, right here, this is just another young lady. She is going to be basically, it's on a whiteboard, and this is a stock photo that I got from pixels.com. They're a really good website that I use for stock photos. I am then going to play around and change the opacity to about 50 or whatever I feel will go with the whole layout. And that option, as you can see, is on the right hand side, the right bottom under layers. And it's going to say opacity and then fill. Fill plays around with the how it looks as well, but opacity is the main one. And then I am going to the eraser. Now the eraser, you kind of will get the same effect as the paintbrush, but the eraser, you can still do that little faded effect as well. But most just do, the art brush, and but they make a new layer, then use the art brush. So I'm just showing you different ways, playing around with the sides. Remember, the hardness is 0. That's how you're going to get that soft round effect that's airbrushed and faded versus that hard round hardness effect to it. You wouldn't want that. It's not going to look right, and it's not going to look natural.
Tell me what you see in me. Gotta be something different. You must be made for me. Patience is never thin. In and out, in and out, in and out. Arguing, trifling, difficult. Baby, more. I don't know why you love me. You got it bad for me. Drop the roof and let the smoke clear. I got diamonds doing pussy slides in both ears. Dice rolling on the Las Vegas strip tonight. Slip that on and we might miss the fight. Fuck a lot, I keep the wallet in my shorty bag. You know she wants mine when she tattoo that ass. I'm a lover boy, she love the toys. Keep it coming, you a rider. It's that roll myself a J and count my figure shit. It's that stepping out, I feel like I'm that nigga shit. I drop 30 on this room, we ain't gon' sleep for shit. If I catch you nodding off, then it's gon' be some shit. Well, you can do what you wanna, live how you wanna, spit what you wanna, be who you wanna be. A young stunner, till I die. You can do what you wanna, live how you wanna, spit what you wanna, be who you wanna be. A young stunner, till I die. Fuck it, I just run it up before I go.
I am now dragging another photo inside of this project. Remember, this is how I add my photos inside, and it's a very easy way to do. This is a conference room, a stock photo from pixels.com.
You can do what you wanna, live how you wanna, spit what you wanna, be who you wanna be. A young stunner, till I die. You can do what you wanna, live how you wanna, spit what you wanna, be who you wanna be. A young stunner, till I die.
Too sexy for this chain, too sexy for your game, too sexy for this fame. Yeah, yeah. I'm too sexy for the trap, too sexy for that cap, too sexy for that jack. Yeah, yeah. Okay, alright, that's fine. Okay, okay. I'm feeling too sexy to accept requests, and I'm way too sexy to go unprotected. And she popped a Tesla, now she gonna let you. Okay, alright, that's fine. Okay, think we got too sexy for that metro housing.
This is probably one of my favorite parts to do with the text. I love to play around with how the text is going to show up. So sometimes I love to do overlay. I like to do soft light. Hard mix is really cute as well. You see vivid light. That's real nice. Overlay is nice. Lighter color. So it really does make a difference. It brings life to your project without the extraness, if that makes sense. So I love this effect.
Too sexy for this fame. Yeah, yeah. I'm too sexy for the trap, too sexy for that cap, too sexy for that jack.
Something about the way that you talk to me, even when you're not around. I feel you, boy. I feel you, boy. Tangled in your love and your energy. Perhaps it was the way that you smile. I see you, boy. Oh, I need you, boy. 'Cause I've been waiting my whole life to find someone like you. To find someone
when the words are bunched up like this, that just simply means that it's too big. Your font is too big. You didn't have the font like real low when you started off. So sometimes it's best to start it off under 100, maybe 50, and then just work your way up. So even when you drag the text box, you can go to the very top and change the size to 50. And like I said, whenever you do have to change it, it'll be easy to do versus this clumped mess.
Load up the Drake, fuck it out, making them pay. It's high and niggas won't take it. Hey, I'm having my way. Said out here having this way. Way out here having this way. And like the third me go out, take me. What? Load up the Drake. What else are they gonna play? It's high and niggas won't take it. Hey, I'm having my way. Said out here having this way. Way out here having this way. And like the third me go out, take. Yeah. Now that I'm picking it through, I just ain't fell in love cause I'm way too awake. And she try fucking a rapper to break up my heart, but my heart doesn't break. Soon as I link with these niggas, they feelings are written all over their face. What? Okay, great.
We are going with the eraser and making sure that the size is small. That'll give you something to work with versus trying to start over and over, and making sure that the hardness is still at 0 and not at 100 or 50. It just has to be at 0. And we are going to then click on that layer and start racing. Or if you want to just add it to the back without erasing, that's fine as well. Because when you send it to the back, you won't have to do this, but I'm just showing you another option.
Some cases and beat it in rape. Seen they was taking no communication, no invitation, cut off circulation. Blue or the rebel, got it, this the matrix. Crosses all on my body, watch for Satan. I'm having gallery laughing, no talking, we smashing. Smith won the classic, ain't none of this average. Sniper, I'm sniping the bitch, I'm assassin. I piped it and piped the bitch up for some action. Don't even be bragging, these little nigga maggots. I don't even flex, this shit be on accident. Fell in my left, hit your bitch on an accident. I shoot my shot at some point, this shit accurate. Load up the Drake. What else are they gonna play? It's high and niggas won't take it. Hey, I'm having my way. Said I ain't having this way. Way I ain't having this way. And like the third me go out, take what? Shoving this shit in their face. Then I go put them up.
I'm going to hold my laptop mouse down or computer mouse. I'm using MacBook Pro. It might be different for you, but if you left click or right click, an option will come up where you can duplicate this layer like how I'm doing now.
Chain and took a trip out of space. Ever since Bronco, this not a race. Go to the Drake. What else are they gonna play? It's high and niggas won't take it. Hey, I'm having my way. Said I ain't having this way. Way I ain't having this way. And like the third me go out, take.
some time, but I should stick around for what? Always felt like sticking around's the same as being stuck. That's that shit that drives me crazy. It like guns with the aching and getting under my skin. Pretty little young thing, had a nigga convinced, got me too excited. Yeah, you play me. You play me.
You might have to rise before this can't be your first time. We might have been before this still fresh in my mind. Looking for some things that I've been that love. You gotta share with somebody but love for the bloom fire. You might have to rise before this can't be your first time. Looking for some things that I've been that I can find. Oh babe, oh yeah, oh yeah. Why is this stuff for me? Oh yeah, just say alright. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
You wanna get with me, stop it. It's not good enough for me since I've been with you. Ooh. It's not gonna work for you. Nobody can equal me.
And again, we're taking that eraser and we are making sure that the line looks real. The first line did not look real, so sometimes you have to go over and over and over and undo it if it just does not look right. Also, this is why you zoom in really largely. I was already at 300, but 400, 450, 600 will definitely do justice to get full details. You don't want to miss anything when it comes to making things look how it seems in that illusion that is wrapped around you, if that makes sense.
Feeling like I'm fresh out boost. If they want the drama, got the ooze. Ship the whole crew to the cruise ship. Doing shit you don't even see in movies. Ride with me, boss. I got a hard hand for her ass off. She want the last name with the ring on it. Cause I pulled out $1 million cash, told her blank on it.
This is my Pixels account with all of my collections that I've saved. They're organized by classes, fashion, beach, beauty, skincare. So I use most of these pretty often, and I wanted to stick with the black, white, and red and a little bit of gray theme. So I chose two ladies just to be another set of stock photos in the back with the opacity very low, so we can focus on the words and not so much of the people, but it'll still come together, if that makes sense.
So long, so long, so long, so long, so long, so long. us still to slow down time. I'm looking at woods, I'm down on my mind. I'm building us still to slow down time.
I'm making another artboard so you can just see a quick and simple text-based logo that I did really quick just to fit this project. It was really on the top of my head with the Lola Daniels, so I thought of something really quick, a cool, pretty, straight to the point, I love saying that, design for my logo. And these fonts fit perfectly with each other, I felt like.
Don't not get straightened but straightened. Don't not get straightened but straightened. You don't get shit straight, you don't straighten it. In this game, sit back, be patient. Niggas act like the game went vacant. Niggas act like some been taken. Ain't nothing but a little bit straightening. Been kicking shit, popping out daily. On the island, it's a movie I'm making. I'm kinda De Niro's with Robert De Niro. He telling them that you're amazing. Put that shit on. Nigga get shit on. I bought 2 whips and I put my bitch on. She put this wrist on. She fat up and said it, but put your milk on. Turn a pandemic into a pandemic, you know that's the shit that we on. Them niggas gon' pull up and act like this shit is together, won't fuck with you home. I don't do the fake kicking. There go a rocket, it's taking it. It's a problem with you, then we straightening it. Swap out the cap with a demon in it. Upgrade the band up with fiends in it. I got some shooters you seen with me. We're running shit back, I just seen tinted. We gonna get straightening, 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 yeah. Straightening, 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 yeah. Don't not get strained but straightening. Don't not get strained but straightening. Don't not get strained but straightening. You don't get shit straight, you don't straighten it. You don't get shit straight if you don't straighten it. No, I'm the type to sit back and watch patient. Do a trick with the stick, it's amazing. In the bando, jumping that bacon. Lows on like I'm starring in the Matrix. I keep the cookie like my grandma made it. I get the keys and the pounds and the baby. In the fridge came white like shady. Drive a Lambo through the avenue. Pretty little bit with an attitude. Give a shout out to them white boys. All white boys look radical. Keep you a 5, don't let them take it. If they get yours, you gotta get straight. I got your up, I give them a facelift. My niggas working and spending the day shift. I got them right when you see me. Then back to back, it's a repeat. Championship, it's a 3-piece. Shoot out the window like Drizzy and Freaky. I keep it on me, believe me. I be up high where the trees be. I go and put on so much of this ice. They say don't touch me, you gon' freeze me. Straightening, 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 yeah. Straightening, 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 yeah. Don't not get strained but straightening. Don't not get strained but straightening. Don't not get strained but straightening. You don't get shit straight, you don't straighten it.
Subscribe.
Tell me what you see in me. Gotta be something different. You must be made for me. Patience is nothing. In and out, in and out, in and out. Arguing, trifling.
While I was making the text-based logo, I wanted to amp it up and do many dots, so I just duplicated this layer of dots and just went from there. Or just go ahead and do a whole nother text and just decrease the size and bring all the dots together when you type command hold for every layer that you want.
Ride around the club, ride around the truck, ride on my dick.
Then, as stated, on MacBooks, you're going to hold down your mouse with the layer you want, or right or left click with Windows. And I'm just going to export as PDF onto my specific folder that I'm using for this project, or just on the desktop. I'm literally then dragging the logo onto artboard 2, and make sure that the logo is all the way at the top of the layers, because if not, it's going to be at the back. So the way you'll find that out is if you look on the right hand side under layers and look under that specific artboard, because you can change the artboards actually. If you double click the titles on the right hand side, you'll be able to change the artboard so you won't be confused.
Keep it juicy, juicy. I eat that lunch. She keep that booty, booty. She keep that pump. That natural beauty, beauty. Yeah, yeah. If you could see it from the front, wait till you see it from the back. Yeah, back, back, back. Till you see it back, back, yeah. Back, back, back. Till you see it from the back. Yeah, back, back, back. Till you see it from the. If you could see it from the front, wait till you see it from the back. Yeah. You like it thick, you like it fat, yeah. Like it keep on wanting more. He asked me, Georgia, where you at, huh? They don't wanna know how long it take to blow my pants up. Poke a finger, net it and some. Tryna squeeze into my true religion, that numb. Celebrate, don't wanna say you like. I don't buy it with the say you like. He said the body unbelievable. Can't trust a big but then a Gemini. Keep it juicy, juicy. I eat that lunch. She keep that booty, booty. She keep that pump. That natural beauty, beauty. Yeah, yeah. If you could see it from the front, wait till you see it from the back. Yeah, back, back, back. Till you see it back, back, yeah. Back, back, back. Till you see it from the back. Yeah, back, back, back. Till you see it from the. If you could see it from the front, wait till you see it from the back.
Bring that ass over, Doja, bring it back, back, back. I'm a big dog tryna eat the kitty cat, cat. I'ma slide in the way it fit. I can tell we match. All up on my racks, hella cheese, I don't for rats. Big crib in Hollywood, I don't even that. Come relax, let it attack. What you wanna act? Take a look with the pop, wipe the pain away. You see, and it's tighter than a virgin, like McDonald's say. I love when you give it, and I love when you don't. Hit me with the three stomachs, sometimes you won't. You told me don't with no is you know. You got it, yeah, you got it, baby. Bust it on the floor.
I keep it juicy, juicy. I eat that lunch. She keep that booty, booty. She keep that pump. That natural beauty, beauty. Yeah, yeah. If you could see it from the front, wait till you see it from the back. Yeah, back, back, back. Till you see it back, back, yeah. Back, back, back. Till you see it from the back. Yeah, back, back, back. Till you see it from the. If you could see it from the front, wait till you see it from the back. He need that, need the rump and need the thighs. He eat that up and in the night.
Pay attention to the line spacing part on the right hand side. You have to change your spacing, the two A's that we talked about. Play around with that and change it to whatever is appropriate. If you don't see your size, you can simply type it in and work with that. Flaticon.com is another website that I love to use just for the simple fact that you can find lots of icons and SVG fonts, folders, and icons and stickers, interface icons. Going to drag the check marks inside like I normally would, playing with the spacing and the size. There is a way that you can resize once it's inside of Photoshop, but how I resize everything, or if I make a mistake, is I'll just delete it or undo it and then just drag it back in and resize it.
Tell me what you see in me. Gotta be something different. You must be made for me. Patience is everything. In and out, in and out, in and out. Arguing, trifling, difficult. Baby, more. I don't know why you love me. You got it bad for me, babe. I'm so glad that I can have this, baby. Nobody else true. Nobody else made this move. Nobody else had a clue what I could do, what I could do. The right amount of love, right amount of trust, right amount of dick, right amount of slap me up. Think that I'm going to fit. Right amount of play, right amount of talking to me.
We are looking for real estate homes, modern homes. I just typed in real estate, or you can even type in homes, however you prefer. And I chose this brown home because it just stood out to me, especially with the clouds, and the edit was really nice. So I did the drag and drop effect. Once I have my 3 modern homes and home type photos I want to use, I'm just making sure that all of them are equal and that the lining is right.
Fighting on my life, you. I'm trusting you, babe. I want this. I want it to work out so bad. But I feel it in my chest and I want it. I want it, yeah. We'll never fall out of love. Drop the roof and let the smoke clear. I got diamonds doing pussy slides in both ears. Dice rolling on the Las Vegas strip tonight. Slip that on and we might miss the fight. Fuck a night, I keep the wallet in my shorty bag. You know she wasn't mine when she tattooed that ass. I'm a lover boy, she love the toys. Keep it coming, you a rider. It's that roll myself a J and count my figure shit. It's that stepping out, I feel like I'm that nigga shit. I drop 30 on this room, we ain't gon' sleep for shit. If I catch you nodding off, then it's gon' be some shit. Well, you can do what you wanna, live how you wanna, spin what you wanna, be who you wanna be. We I'm stunner till I die. You can do what you wanna, live how you wanna, spin what you wanna, be who you wanna be. We I'm stunner till I die. Fuck it, I just run it up before I go. Would you tell the world my secrets if I let you close? Yeah, my baby, send action. These days, no, my niggas be blasting. Living in the middle, this shit might drive you mad. Feeling pretty mixed up, but this not shit ain't all bad. Bloody, bloody murder, there ain't no second chances. Well, you can do what you wanna, live how you wanna, spin what you wanna, be who you wanna be. We young stunner till I die. You can do what you wanna, live how you wanna, spin.
If you're in Photoshop and it ever turns like this, make sure that you save your project, name it, and then just exit out of it and come back. And once you come back, it'll be back straight.
I'm too sexy for this chain, too sexy for your game, too sexy for this fame. Yeah, yeah. I'm too sexy for the trap, too sexy for that cap, too sexy for that jack. Yeah, yeah. Okay, alright, that's fine. Okay, okay. I'm feeling too sexy to accept requests, and I'm way too sexy to go unprotected.
With the gradient effects, you're going to make sure that you double click on the outside of the layer, not in the box area, but on the outside, the gray side. And we're just going to play around with the stroke. These have been downloaded into Photoshop. This is also in the Google Drive file under gradients. And it's called Lucifer or something like that. I believe the person who made it. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then, so gradient, overlay, and stroke normally where this comes from. And you can play around with the angle, the opacity, how bright you would want it to be. The angle is really what would have that shine and gold and silver effect, like that gleam. That's what's going to change it.
Something about the way that you talk to me, even when you're not around. I feel you, boy. I feel you, boy. Tangled in your love and your energy. Perhaps it was the way that you smile. I see you, boy. Oh, I need you, boy. 'Cause I've been waiting my whole life to find someone like you. To find someone like
to the Drake. Fuck it, I'm making them pay. It's high and niggas won't take it. Hey, I'm having my way. Said out here having this way. Way out here having this way. And like the third me go out, take me. What? Go to the Drake. What else are they gonna play? It's high and niggas won't take it. Hey, I'm having my way. Said out here having this way. Way out here having this way. And like the third me go out, take what? Hey, look. Now that I'm picking it through, I just ain't fell in love cause I'm way too awake. And she try fucking a rapper to break on my heart, but my heart doesn't break. Soon as I link with these.
I am making a mock-up for my portfolio for my client. If you were to have a client, or even for yourself, if you're launching your new website, I'm making sure everything is even because, like I said, this is going to be a flyer just showing off this presentation of what you've done. And of course, it's nice to start off with just a square base. So 2000 by 2000 is nice, or 1000 by 1000 is nice, but most of the time I do 2000 by 2000.
Might have a little more on that play. We having our way in 3 ways. OVO scope on the tray. We having our way. Having that shit. Fuck how you take it. We straight from the break. And I caught me some cases and beat it and break. Seen they was taking no communication, no invitation, cut off circulation. Blue or the rebel, got it, this the matrix. Crosses all on my body, watch for Satan. I'm having gallery laughing, no talking, we smashing. Smash one the classic, ain't none of this average. Sniper, I'm sniping the bitch, I'm assassin. I piped it, then pipe the bitch up for some action. Don't even be bragging, these little nigga maggots. Now I don't even flinch, this shit be on accident. Fell in my left, hit your bitch on an accident. I shoot my shot at some point, this shit accurate. Go to the Drake. What else are they gonna play? It's high and niggas won't take it. Hey, I'm having my way. Said out here having this way. Way out here having this way. And like the third me go out, take what? Shoving this shit in their face. Then I go put that boy right in display. They know that I'm after my way. I was 17 on the song with Dre. It's like an ignition notice when we dropping. Cause niggas get moved out they space. Move. 2.5 was going on 3, but fuck it, cause it's worth the wait. Got to be illiterate, but I want everything that's on the menu and what's on your plate. I talk to God, he give me the faith. I hit the boy if I need me a drink. I got a Richie that sit on my left, but somehow I always be pulling up late. Aiming on earth. Ever since I got that rocket chain and took a trip out of space. Ever since run, cause it's not a race. Go to the Drake. What else are they gonna play? It's high and niggas won't take it. Hey, I'm having my way. Said out here having this way. Way out here having this way. And like the third me go out, take it.
Another way you can insert this complete website layout is by making an actual another artboard, which is basically the size of your regular board, but you would just change the width all the way to something completely different. So the sizing does varies depending on the length of the website.
I guess, yeah. So I'm not with nobody, cause I don't wanna hurt nobody. Did it over text, didn't call me. Still got love for your mommy. I know you wanna be somebody, even if you gotta leave somebody. Yes, I'm hurt, yes, I'm dirty. Most of the things I don't wanna say. I won't be around while you chase. You'll try to come back when you faint. I always want the truth, but it's dangerous. You got something real, not bad.
Once you are done with that artboard, you are then going to click on the artboard title. This was artboard 11. And then you are going to simply export it back onto artboard 10. So you just will drag it along like we've been already doing. If the layer doesn't show, that simply means that that item, that image is underneath the other image. So always drag it on the top, what you want to be shown on the top. And I am again changing the opacity in the background. I don't want it to be so bright and bold because again, I want the main focus to be on this beautiful website design. I am then going to be clicking on the gray side. Remember that far right side of the artboard of that Lola logo, not the square part that has that item inside. And we're going to click stroke or gradient overlay and play around with that. Give it that silver effect that I want and just go from there. They have all type of gradient effects, silver effects, gold effects, everything. It's amazing. I love it. Remember, this is in the folder. I also clicked on the photo and did the same, gray area double click and wanted to really add a red tint to it, but I decided not to do red. I'm color picking from her dress and I was going to do red, change the opacity to maybe 10, 20, something of that nature. But yes, I decided to just keep it to the opacity of 28, fill of 100%. And yeah.
solo. Solo. It's hell on earth and the city's on fire. In hell there's heaven. There's a bull and a matador dueling in the sky. In hell there's heaven.
And I'm adding design by Buncreatives Studios, just to let people know that I've created it, add my watermarks, and then I'm done with this website design overall.
Straightening, yeah. Straightening, yeah. Don't not get straightening but straightening. Don't not get straightening but straightening. Don't not get straightening but straightening. You don't get shit straight, you don't straighten it. In this game, sit back, be patient. Niggas act like the game went vacant. Niggas act like some been taken. Ain't nothing but a little bit of straightening. Been kicking shit popping out daily. On the island, it's a movie I'm making. I'm counting De Niro's with Robert De Niro. He telling them that you're amazing. That shit on, nigga get shit on. I bought 2 whips and I put my bitch on. She put this wrist on. She factored and said it went with trim prongs. Turn a pandemic into a pandemic. You know that's the shit that we on. Them niggas gon' pull up and act like this shit is together. Won't fuck with you, home. I don't do the fake kicking. There go a rocket, is taking it. It's a problem with you, then we straightening it. Swap out the cap with a demon in it. Upgrade the band up with fiends in it. I got some shooters you seen with me. We're running shit back, I just seen tenant. We gonna get straight.